A warm welcome to AD4 TV Radio News Update, coming to you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital territory. I am Gracious Ogon. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the National Assembly and the House of Representatives, seeking approval for a loan of $5.513 billion, which he says will be used to finance the 2020 budget deficit, as well as finance critical projects and support some states of the Federation. United States President Donald Trump this Thursday signed an executive order seeking to strip social media networks like Twitter and Facebook of legal immunity for content posted by users. He said the regulation is necessary because the companies are no longer neutral forums but engage in political activism. The president stated that the United States Attorney General William Barr will pursue the legislation to regulate social media companies. As reported on AD4 TV News, recall that social media network Twitter has announced earlier this week that the president's tweets will now be fact-checked for misinformation. In a developing story, there have been continuous protests in Minneapolis in the United States over the death of George Floyd, a Black American in police custody earlier this week, which has shown no sign of slowing down as the protesters set a police station on fire. Meanwhile, the Minnesota National Guard on Twitter has announced that more than 500 soldiers have been sent to St. Paul, Minneapolis and surrounding communities to protect lives and preserve property, though the 4 policemen responsible for the death of Floyd have been fired, but no charges have been filed. President Donald Trump has, however, taken to his Twitter handle to condemn the protesters, saying they are dishonoring George Floyd in death. In a related development, Floyd's girlfriend, Courtney Ross, said he was an angel and she would not rest on her oars until justice is done. Meanwhile, President Emeritus Olusegun Obasanjo, in a letter dated May 26 to Kaba Neal, chairman of the African Development Bank Board of Governors, he urged the organization to follow laid-down processes to protect and preserve the bank, and urged the board of the bank to ignore calls by the U.S. government that an independent investigation of its president, Akinwumi Adesina, be made, as he has since been cleared of all allegations against him by the bank itself. He also asked African leaders to speak against the introduction of recommendations that fall outside laid-down procedures, laws, rules, and regulations of the bank. In a developing story, British officials this Thursday announced that they are considering extending citizenship to some Hong Kong residents who already hold British passports if China does not withdraw its controversial national security law in Hong Kong. Recall that China's parliament this Thursday approved plans to impose a security law on Hong Kong, which is in conflict with its international obligations under the principles of the legally binding UN-registered Sino-British Joint Declaration. And in Europe, according to reports, top scientists at the Institute for Plant Molecular and Cellular Biology in Valencia, Spain, are working to harness the power of nature by using the latest techniques to cultivate and regulate the genetic makeup of the Nicotia benthamian, a close relative of the tobacco plant, to fight the coronavirus disease. Still on health, a Democrat lawmaker in Pennsylvania, United States, Brian Sims, has accused Republican leaders of keeping a Republican lawmaker's positive coronavirus test from them for a week and not informing them that a handful of Republican members were quarantining as a result. He called on the state's Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, to launch an investigation on Republican members who tested positive or participated in self-quarantine without informing their Democrat colleagues. Now talking crime, a Rwanda genocide suspect, Valencia Kabuga, who was arrested in a Paris suburb on May 16 after more than 2 decades on the run, has been indicted by United Nations for sponsoring and arming the ethnic Hutu militias with marches, as a result of 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were killed in 1994. Kabuga, however, told a French court that the international charges against him are lies, as his lawyer asked that he be released under court supervision on account of his age and ill health, adding that the result of a DNA test used to identify him should be ignored as he did not consent to it. We'll take a short break now. When we return, Nigeria's singer called for legalization of marijuana. Stay with us, details coming shortly.
The President, Muhammadu Buhari, has approved the establishment of the first set of 12 TED Fund Centers of Excellence, with 2 centers of excellence in each of the 6 geopolitical zones hosted by first, second, and third generation universities in the first instance in the year 2020. Those of the state universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education will follow in subsequent years. The focus areas of the centers of excellence, in line with the contemporary practice in the more competitive economies and technologies, are mainly in science-based disciplines. The approval, which came upon recommendation of TED Fund Board of Trustees and endorsement of the Honorable Minister of Education, Malam Adamu Adamu, is to signify a major paradigm shift in favor of research and excellence in our universities, but also a demonstration that the federal government has decided to directly establish and fund centers of excellence besides the ones funded by the World Bank, being the African Centers of Excellence. Details of the operations and guidelines for the inaugural TED Fund Center of Excellence are to be issued by the fund. Signed, Buhari Mikailu, Director, Physical Infrastructure Development, for the Executive Secretary.
You're welcome back. You're watching AD4 TV Radio News Update. The Niger Delta Development Commission, in an internal memo, says it has shut down its operations for 2 weeks following the death of the Acting Executive Director, Finance and Administration of the Commission, Ibangan Itan. The Commission over the past months have been unbridled with crisis over misapplication of fund. More stories will come to you as they unfold. The Nigerian Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism, Lai Mohammed, this Thursday said the federal government has not received the ventilators promised by the United States government. Recall that in April, President Donald Trump, in a telephone call with his Nigerian counterpart, had promised to send ventilators to Nigeria. Legendary Nigerian singer Daddy Shoki, in a video on his Instagram page, has called on the federal government of Nigeria to legalize the use of marijuana, saying it has countless medical benefits. The singer noted that the legalization of marijuana will help in generating revenue and the creation of jobs in the country. Recall that earlier this year, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State, Nigeria, called on the federal government to legalize marijuana, which he said his state intends to invest solely for the production of drugs. That's it on AD4 TV Radio News Update, coming to you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. You can join the conversation on our website at www.ad4tvradio.com. Please follow us on our social media platforms at AD4TV Radio on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at AD4TV Radio. Many thanks for watching. I am Gracious Ogon.